Hey guys, Mike here. So this is going to be patch notes review for Title Update 2 for Sword and Shield, and I'm just gonna give my thoughts on the changes to Sword and Shield. So let's get right into it. Alright, first thing, shield attack, shield bash, hard bash, raw damage, and stun values have been slightly increased. This is the 3-hit combo with the shield, so let's take a look at it right now and see where it lies. So shield bash 3 here, that's the 3 bash combo, that's at about 42 DPS. Yeah, it's actually the lowest combo. Like you can do Y2, B2, or just the B combo. They're all at around 55, 60 DPS. Shield bash is a bit low at 40 DPS, but the thing is, the stun on shield bash 3 is the main selling point for that move. In fact, honestly, the stun on shield bash 1 and shield bash 2 are not that high. It's actually, you really need to get that shield bash 3 to get that stun. This is interesting to me because this makes me think, okay, well, are we going to switch from slashing combos and just use shield bash as our default combos now? To be totally honest, I don't think so. I think this is more for players who just like to shield bash, and it's just going to make them a little bit more effective, but I don't think it's going to really affect the meta here. I suspect they're probably going to pull this DPS up to maybe 50. I actually don't even think it's going to be 50. I think it's still going to be like 48 DPS, which is still behind these slashing combos with the sword. That's just my prediction. I could be totally wrong. I personally find the shield bash combo is actually useful if you need to just get a little bit more stun on the monster because your upward swing bash or your falling bash or your perfect rush bashes did not fully get the KO in time. But honestly, you should not really be using this combo to just fight normally. Another big advantage of shield bash is that it doesn't cost any sharpness to do. So it already has that inherently going for it, so I don't really think they're going to buff it anymore. All right, next thing, Perfect Rush's finishing portion has had its raw damage slightly increased. Now, we don't know what they mean by finishing portion. I suspect they're talking about Perfect Rush 3, which is the scaling slash and the part where like you go up. That's actually consequential in my opinion, because if you look at it here, I actually broke down just the individual moves on their own for the Perfect Rush combo. So here are the combos. This is the DPS of the full combo, but we're not looking at that right now. We're looking at each individual move in the Perfect Rush combo, and Leaping Slash is the worst. It's just really friggin' bad. If you are able to do Perfect Rush early to forego your and kind of just like throw away your Leaping Slash, say it misses, who cares? But if it allows you to, because you're doing it fast enough to get to Perfect Rush 3, that's actually worth it. So if they're further buffing Perfect Rush 3 more, that's even more better and even more consequential for Sword and Shield, because you're going to really want to look for opportunities where you can do a fast Perfect Rush 1 or even a Perfect Rush 2 and just skip to Perfect Rush 3. So on any downtime reopener, you can just start with Perfect Rush 3, which is probably gonna get buffed and it's probably gonna do a lot of damage. So I actually think this is a pretty consequential change, and I think it's a pretty good change. And then, you know, after you do Perfect Rush 3, you do your falling bash and then continue with your B combo. So your reopener is just going to be really stronger if you're doing a Perfect Rush 3 reopener. Additionally, you know, if you do it from, you know, starting from the whole combo, like take this one right here, backstep, leaping slash, Perfect Rush 1, 2, 3, falling bash, like the full combo with the backstep included. This is probably going to bump this DPS a little higher over here, probably past 60 DPS for raw motion value per second, and it's actually going to surpass the lateral return round slash combo here, which is it's at about 58 DPS. And if that's the case, then it's actually going to make it the objectively best combo to do, you know, if you can get it off, which means it's probably going to see more use in topple scenarios, and it's just going to be objectively better. I also think it's going to affect the arena time. All right, next thing, adjusted it to slightly make it harder to consecutively chain the guard slash move into itself. I'm not quite sure what this is talking about. I think this is where people have been saying, okay, well, after you perfect guard, you can just do a guard slash after that, and then if you get hit while doing the guard slash, that triggers a perfect guard. But let me know if you know for sure what it's talking about in the comments. So from what I understand, it's just going to be a nerf to guard slash. I personally do not really use guard slash that much. The only time I really use guard slash is to reset and cancel out a spinning reaper so I can start my combo and loop the sword combo again. But honestly, I don't really do it that often because there's other infinite combos that you can do that do not rely on that sequence. But it does say harder to consecutively chain the guard slash move into itself. So if I'm reading this right, it sounds like spamming guard slash over and over and chaining it into itself over and over. I've not really seen or personally have done any of that kind of tech. But again, you know, hey, maybe it's some really obscure case that has some application and it just seems like this update is going to nerf it. All right, here. So as soon as they cross this out, slightly increase the evade window for sliding swipe. They crossed that out. They said no more of that. Okay. And they said, instead, they're saying slightly decrease the invulnerability window for sliding swipe. And this was June 27, revised to correct previously inaccurate information. So this is just actually incorrect. So did they actually just update the game with this in the patch notes, but then it was actually supposed to be this? Completely opposite. That's actually kind of funny, but I mean, okay, it is what it is. Less invulnerable windows on sliding swipe. Honestly, I don't use sliding swipe for the iframe. Honestly, I don't use sliding swipe for the iframes. I mainly use it for gap closing. All right, next here, chop and side slash raw damage have been slightly decreased. Okay, so chop and side slash are the first two Y hits or triangle hits in the basic sword and shield combo. Currently, so the motion value for those are actually quite low. They're at 19, and I believe slide slash is 18. So those are actually going to be lower. Now, here's one thing to look at. You can compare these motion values. The first two hits, chop inside, 19 and 18, like I just mentioned. And the first two hits of the B combo, though, are 27 and 28. So they're substantially greater. So they're actually nerfing these already weaker hits, which is very interesting. So this means Capcom thinks that chop and slide slash, like the amount of movement capability it gives you, is actually quite strong. And they're actually compensating for that by decreasing the damage on them. Because if we look at one combo that I think is pretty useful, which is the chop side lateral return. So that's YYBB, and you just loop that on repeat. Now the DPS isn't the best for this, but this is good for repositioning. Like, so if you need to use those first two Y hits to reposition and kind of get into a better spot to ensure you land your hits or you're hitting the weak part of the monster, this is a really useful combo. Based on this patch notes, it's just going to be worse. To be honest, this combo really shines with the Corrupted Mantle. You can actually see the Corrupted combo, which is YYBB, it actually is the best DPS here, even better than Perfect Rush. So this DPS is actually probably going to be a little bit lower. I think it's probably going to be below 60, but it all depends what motion value they set on for those two hits. I mean, ultimately for this Corrupted combo, there's 6 motion values, right? You have the 2 chop side, you have the lateral return, that's 4, and then you have the 2 Corrupted Mantle hits. So they're going to be basically nerfing 2 of those hits. That's, you know, a small part of the whole combo, but it is going to be a net lower. I actually don't, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a slight nerf to this combo. Now, the interesting thing is, though, if that nerf to this combo is going to be less than the buffs to Perfect Rush 3 or whatever they are calling the later part of the Perfect Rush combo. So, right, if this is our Perfect Rush 3 combo right here, say it goes higher than 60, and say this Corrupted Mantle combo goes below 60, so that means Perfect Rush is actually going to be, might actually be better than the Corrupted Mantle combo on topples and, you know, situations where you can get the full combo off. Again, these are all subject to what the actual motion value changes are going to be, but these are just my predictions here. One speculation I have is maybe Capcom doesn't like the fact people are doing this Corrupted Mantle combo for like pretty much everything. So we'll see. All right, next, counter slash raw damage has been decreased. Okay, so I actually, in my Sword and Shield guide based on data, I actually said that counter slash was actually the best pound for pound move out of the box right here at above 80 DPS. And this kind of makes sense that they would nerf it. Am I happy with this nerf? Not really. I just like counter slash being a lot of damage out of Perfect Guard. It's just very satisfying to do. I hope they don't nerf it too much, but do I think it needed a nerf? Honestly, I don't think it needed a nerf. I mean, Sword and Shield on the whole is not like one of the highest DPS weapons. So like, it was just kind of nice having a really nice burst DPS as a reward for doing Perfect Guard. So it kind of sucks that they're nerfing this, but it's whatever. Maybe the Perfect Rush 3 buffs will justify that and still make the weapon really poggers to use. We'll see. All right, next here. Fixed an issue where focus strikes could be unintentionally performed on the same wounds more than once on certain monsters. Okay, I don't know exactly what this is talking about, but I kind of know what it's talking about. So in some instances, you can do a wound opening focus strike, which is when you do a focus strike on a white scarring before the wound is about to open the wound up. And I've been calling that in my previous videos the drill slash from Monster Hunter Rise, and I actually did the DPS here. It's actually very strong. I'm sure most of you already know that, with the DPS over 60 for all the various things you can do out of it. So what I've experienced is that you can do drill slash or that opening wound focus strike on a pre-wound, and it, for some reason, it won't register. So you can actually do it twice on the same pre-wound. And I think that's what this is talking about here, because I have not experienced an issue where I did a focus strike on an already open wound and the focus strike failed. Like I would get my focus strike on the wound and I get it and it's fair. It's totally fair. I think this is talking about pre-wounds and the fact that you can sometimes do drill slash twice on a same pre-wound and you get that really fat DPS from drill slash. That's my guess. That's my interpretation of what this is talking about. So it seems like they're going to fix it. All right, this is my take on the patch notes for Sword and Shield. We're going to do dual blades, probably hammer and land. And we'll talk about the other weapons. So a charge blade as well. We can talk a lot about charge blade as well in a different video. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.